once you tweet that link.
I did. I tweeted it. And
you did.
Hold on, and we are live, by the way, guys. We don't have a name for the show yet, but Justin's getting ready to go on vacation. This is something we've been talking about doing.
I am. Hold on. Let me retweet your link real quick. I'm live right now with @Flip Otaku.
Now, Justin, have you been wanting to do YouTube for a while?
Yes and no. A lot of people have told me that I should, especially because like a lot of people are like, nobody reads anymore.
Yeah.
And I was a columnist for so long.
Yeah.
And it's just like, really, that's what I got to do now. And so this is me caving, basically.
So for those who don't know, Justin and I did a show together. Did my podcast about a month or two ago at this point, almost 2 months, and we hit it off. We had some good chemistry, so we both decided to do a show, which is nuts for me because I fucking love this guy. And so
it was a lot of fun, and yeah, we had a good rapport.
Yeah, and so the way the show is going to go is there's going to be a topic each time we're on. We have questions already prepared, but of course with StreamYard, I don't know if you see this, but you can click on like a person's comment and it'll appear on screen. So towards the end of the show, if people start asking good questions, we can. Which, by the way, do you want to get into the worst question that we had just right off the bat?
Sure.
It was on Twitter. I don't know if you saw this. I don't want to call this person out, but I roll my eyes. When do you think the Joker film will come to the Criterion Collection?
Clearly, it's roll. Not really worth a response.
I don't know.
It's a good movie. It's not a great movie.
Wait, you actually liked it?
Yeah, I didn't mind it. It's basically cosplay Taxi Driver.
Yeah. Taxi Driver is an amazing film, by the way. If you guys haven't seen
it, it is, and it's very, very well done. Joaquin Phoenix is really, really good in it. It's not a bad movie, and it's all the hubbub about it being it basically being alt-right sort of justification or whatever. Look, whether or not you are truly, truly bothered by the presence of the alt-right in today's world, which I think most of us are, I think to have an understanding of where they think they're coming from, I think you have to, you have to see what they're identifying with. But honestly, I haven't seen a whole lot of people saying this is me. Have you?
No. I mean, well, one or two people, especially from high school, but back then they were just as cringy as they are now. So
sure.
So nothing's changed.
I mean,
but
angry teenagers are angry teenagers.
That's true. But you're the first person out of, I like the handful of people that are in the industry that are around your age on Twitter that actually liked it. Because I know Zach Birchie hated it.
Did he see it?
He saw it, and when I talked to him about it, and on Ancast, he said he booed it, he hated it, he wanted to leave. So there's a couple other people that said that they didn't like it, but this is the first person. This is the first person. You're the first person that I've seen that actually say, yeah, it was a good movie.
It wasn't bad. I mean, it's good. It's not great. It's definitely not Criterion worthy or anything. It's not great art or anything like that. I thought it was well constructed, and I thought it was a decent look at what happens when somebody just feels utterly shit upon by the world and how it can weaponize them. And it happens in the Middle East with ISIS. It happens here with the alt-right. It can happen anywhere. And, the whole thinking that if you don't look at it and don't pay them any mind, I don't think that leads to... I think you have to understand where people are coming from if you're going to do something about them, because every bad actor is... not every bad actor, but a good percentage of bad actors are motivated by coming from a really shitty place.
Yeah.
and you
I
have
mean,
to understand where
Joaquin
they're
Phoenix
at
grew up
if
in
you're going to understand them.
Joaquin
I'm sorry,
Phoenix
what was
grew up
that?
in the Joaquin Phoenix grew up in the Children of God cult.
Yeah, I mean,
Which
I'm
is
sure
just
he used
crazy.
some of that. Maybe
Yeah.
he did,
Oh,
maybe he didn't.
definitely.
I don't know a ton about that cult, but I mean, is it worth seeing? It's worth seeing. I don't think I would have rushed to the theater to see it, but I'm also not a superhero guy, so whatever.
There was definitely a big fear of like shootings at theaters, and my wife being very protective of me. When I was like, "Hey, I want to go see Joker," she was like, "You can't see that movie. I don't want you to die," because there have been shootings here in town where at the
Yeah.
movie theater. But I only get to see a handful of films a year in theater, and it was either that or Lighthouse because they're coming out around the same time, and I'm holding off to next week to see Lighthouse.
Lighthouse was good. It's hard to say I enjoyed it because it's not really the sort of movie you enjoy.
Isn't there a lot of fart jokes in that movie?
There's some farting. Um, it's a mood. It really isn't. I mean, it really isn't a story so much as watching two people slowly come apart. And it was kind of enthralling, but I don't really need to see it again. I very much respect its filmmaking. Its craft is very well done.
It's the same director as The Witch.
Yes, The Vitch.
Which I thought was phenomenal.
I really liked The Vitch quite a lot. I can't not call it that. I'm sorry. It just comes out
because it's VV, right? Technically,
yeah. It's the old timey, before there was a W in English.
I thought that movie was really good, and the atmosphere is what sold it for me. Just
that's what that director does better than anyone is atmosphere. He understands atmosphere really well.
And he's only 2 films in, which is pretty insane that he's already making film. Like his first film is The Witch, and then Lighthouse.
God, was that his first film?
Yeah, that was his first film. So I think this guy is going to be really. I think he's going to be something to look out for.
He kind of already is. And how interesting is it that Robert Pattinson ended up being a good actor?
All those guys, all those kid actors, Shia LaBeouf, Kristen Stewart,
Robert
Pattinson,
Shia LaBeouf. I'm really curious to see Honey Boy. I haven't gotten a chance yet. I'm not sure I will before I have to leave. But I really want to see him just kind of split his gut and say it's like, look, this is why I'm fucked in the head.
Did you see?
Which is apparently what that movie is.
I think it's GQ or some other YouTube channel. They're pitting 2 actors next to each other and just have a conversation. And they pit Kristen Stewart and Shia, and it's such a interesting watch. You like Kristen's very like you can tell she's kind of like nervous and kind of like not feeling the situation. And Shia is he seems like he's in a good headspace. He's very grounded. Very much, but he's like, yeah, I had a messed up childhood. My dad was a friend instead of a dad, and that's what Honey Boy's about. The term Honey Boy is kind of messed up when you think about.
Oh yeah, it's really it is. And me, I love my childhood trauma movies. So,
speaking of which, childhood trauma movies. Actually, this is a terrible segue. Terrible segue. So, guys. We're going to talk about today's topic is bootlegs, and I wanted to talk with someone who is in the industry, who produces a lot of discs, and what his point of views are. So before I side which way or the other, I want to say if a bootleg is available, if something is not readily available in my country that, in the language that I can understand, I think a bootleg is a fine option. I like physical media. But there are times when I imported Panzerworld Galleon, which is an old Sunrise mecha show. But there's a company on eBay who sends me free bootlegs, and they recently sent me a hodgepodge of them. They sent me Dragon's Heaven, Blackmagic M66, which Blackmagic is streaming on High Dive.
I was going to say, you can get Blackmagic very easily. That's not something that Addy can justify piracy in any way on.
So how do you feel about bootlegs? If something like, let's say it was licensed at one point, but it's out of print, you can't get your hands on it.
And used, I mean, with a few very, very notable exceptions, you can still get a lot of out of print stuff used without too much trouble. I consider bootlegs to be my last resort. I have a handful. I have the second series of Kodocha as a bootleg, and I don't think I even actually have this. I think I have a rip of a bootleg.
So you have a bootleg of a bootleg.
A bootleg of a bootleg of the old Rummick World OVAs.
Okay.
And I think there was one more that I have since remastered in HD for Discotheque that I threw away. Now, I cannot get any of those in DVD quality, and Kodocha, the bootleggers are literally the only ones who have ever subtitled that second series, which, everybody wants it. It's not that good. That said, I do not want to support anybody selling this stuff, because I think the act of making money off of this, I think, crosses every ethical line for me. And in the case of the Hong Kong stuff, a lot of that money ends up going to triads and organized crime.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I think you have to put a lot of those guys in the same category as the piracy streaming sites, which do some very significant damage to legit streaming ecosystem. So yeah, I don't like that they exist. I don't like them making money. If I'm going to have to resort to piracy, I'm going to so in descending order: legal streaming and buying the disc if I like it. That's my number one. If that's not available, imports from other English-speaking territories, say Australia or UK. If that's not available, and I realize this is not an option for a lot of people, importing the Japanese myself and finding a subtitle script and rebuilding the disc.
I mean, that's. I mean, I didn't know that was an option until I talked to Logan, and Logan got, because I've bought one bootleg, and the company just sends me free stuff, and I don't really plug them. I just say, hey, I got this at the store. But when Logan told me that
don't mention their name,
the disc, I'm not. But when Logan told me that you can rebuild the disc, I was like, oh shit. So I imported an old mecha series that I adore that'll never have an English release. It's only in Japanese.
What is it?
Panzer World Galleon. It's an old Sunrise
yeah.
mecha show. I love this show, as cheesy as it is, and how the ending's doesn't really come together. I love it. So, and then when Ultraman got announced, I threw away all my bootlegs. So that, as a Toku fan, until this year, really, we haven't had much to like really.
No, you haven't. It's been very dry for you guys until very recently.
Like Shout's put out 12 Super Sentai shows, but Hasbro's put the kibosh on that for just right now. Kamen Rider only has 2 official releases in the States. And then that's pretty much been it. But Discotheque, Mill Creek, they're cranking out Ultraman. We get 2 tomorrow. So I'm really excited about that. Yeah, we got 2 last month, 2 tomorrow, and then 1 in December. So those are coming out at a fast pace. But for me, as a Kamen Rider fan, me and Logan were talking about, it's like the only way that we can really watch the show is piracy. We have, like, that's the only option that we have, which sucks.
Okay, so let me continue my ladder of descending levels of in basically the descent into hell.
Yeah.
So after that, importing stuff without English and building my own. If that isn't an option and I can't even get the Japanese import, torrents. I would absolutely rather torrent something than participate in something where someone's going to make money illegally. If that doesn't work, then, diving into the sordid world of IRC bots, trying to find stuff that way. And if that's not an option, then physical bootlegs. But physical bootlegs are almost never the only option anymore. And I don't do the bootleg streaming sites because most of them look like shit anyway.
Yeah, that's true. Yep, I actually just signed up for High Dive, and I think it's my favorite out of the
High Dive. Really?
I think the content that they have. Well, right now I'm watching Gold Light Tan.
Right. Yeah, they have some really obscure mecha shows. So yes, really that would definitely be.
It's right.
That would definitely be up your alley.
But I mean, like
that is definitely all you.
The only one I don't sub to is Funimation. Crunchyroll has a lot of discotheque titles on it.
They do. Crunchyroll and Discotheque, they actually share licensing fees for some of those shows. Or Crunchyroll helps subsidize the licensing fee. And in that case, in cases like that, it some of those Discotheque releases wouldn't be possible without Crunchyroll. So, awesome. Definitely support those if you can. To a lesser extent, a lot of the Crunchyroll stuff a lot of the Discotheque stuff is streaming on Amazon also.
Yep. I actually, man, Amazon's search functionality is just awful.
There's a lot about Amazon that's awful, and I'm getting more and more pissed off with them as days go by.
Like, they have Psycho-Pass season 3, and they miss the way that they have that show in their system. You have to purposely spell the title wrong to even find it. It's like you have to put like 3 S's or 4 S's or something to find Psycho-Pass. They might have changed it, but the night it came out, I was Psycho-Pass season 3, couldn't find it. And then someone
to be fair, I've had to deal with the back end for if you're a streaming provider for Amazon. It is broken. That is the worst system I have ever dealt with. And I was uploading stuff to Hulu in their early days, and that Hulu wasn't a walk in the park either. And sometimes they were very frustrating. Amazon treats their content partners as bad or maybe worse than if you have to than if you actually have to contact customer service.
Really?
They are horrendous. I don't even think it's possible to get a live person on the phone or even email the same person twice in a row.
That's like, see, I actually always wondered how shows got on. So you guys have to upload it yourselves.
Yeah, it's not too dissimilar from how you publish something on YouTube. That said, you have to jump through a lot of hoops, and they keep changing the rules and goalposts and then don't tell you. And then when they inevitably, put a big stop sign on your content because it doesn't follow the new rules they didn't tell you about, you can't just fix it. You have to petition them to fix it. And then it takes them a week and a half, 2 weeks to get back to you, if they get back to you. And then you have to fix it again. So there is something I uploaded. It shall remain nameless. But it's an anime that it wasn't for the free streaming. It was for a paid download. That I uploaded in July. I'm still dealing with it. I'm still trying to fix it up. It was one series.
See, like whenever I hear you
talk about a short series.
Now, see, this is like every time I hear you talk about it, to try to put it in the context for me, I think about like if the company that brings us our flour just messed up and we got the wrong stuff, and we would have to deal with that for like 4 months. That would be bad for us. That would be that would be terrible. Or if we messed up a pizza and tried to fix it later on down the road. So I actually always wondered why or how you guys upload stuff. I thought it was just you sent them files and they did it themselves, or
I mean, it used to be, but now that broadband is fast enough and the people avoid shipping hard drives now if they can at all avoid it. So for all of the big streamers, you have to encode to this very, very strict specification. Some services are more strict than others. I think Hulu is still the most strict. Apple's a close second. And then, Netflix. I forgot about Netflix. Netflix is a whole nightmare. You have to be certified. I don't do Netflix anymore because they actually require a different format than everybody else. that is not supported by anything other than very, very expensive professional software.
Do you guys have any titles on Netflix?
No. I think Discotech does not. TMS might, but I didn't prepare it for them. Netflix is very tough. They require their stuff in a format called, I think it's IMF. IMF is based on digital cinema format, DCP, which is how technical can I get here? Should I get?
You can get as technical as you want. I think the people watching are going to want to hear this.
Okay, so you know JPEG. Do you remember JPEG 2000?
No.
Okay, JPEG 2000 was a successor format to JPEG that was supposed to be a little better that never caught on because everyone just used JPEG. And so whenever you see a movie, that's in a format called DCP, and DCP is basically two files with a bunch of metadata and checksums. And the files are the video, which is every frame of the film compressed as a JPEG 2000 in the special movie color format, and another file that's all of the audio multiplexed together. So that's a DCP, and then it's all saved into like one MXF file for the video, one MXF file for the audio. And then there's a scripting format that allows you to sort of clumsily edit those files. So say you need to play your movie in India and you have to cut out all the kissing because that's illegal. Okay. So then you can make playlist files from those original files that cuts out all the kissing or splices in alternate scenes. So you have a credit sequence in like the different local languages. So you can do all that splicing without having to do all of that.
Okay.
And redo everything from scratch. And then you can have additional files add on different audio tracks for different languages, different subtitle tracks, etc. So basically it's a way to build all of the stuff that you would need for one possible movie for every possible region and every possible version. Netflix's format is similar to that. It's a weird extension of that format where the quality is even slightly better, but it's such a weird thing and it's not well established. It's just sort of a nightmare, and you have to. Yeah. Anyway, I don't want to go on and on about that. But.
Which service, whether it be anime only service or like one of the big ones like Netflix, which one is the easiest to upload to?
YouTube,
yeah. I literally just do it on my phone usually.
Well, the pro end of YouTube and the consumer end of YouTube aren't all that different, and they have no standards, and they'll take anything.
Yeah, they don't. There's no standards. They actually there are some manga tubers. I don't know if that's a thing that were uploading stuff in 4K and like super like HD content, and they were noticing that YouTube was purposely downgrading their video files. Like if they like looked at the like bit rate, it was lower than what they uploaded it to. And this
everything is lower than you upload it to. Everything gets recompressed for streaming. That's how they optimize it for streaming.
But it's gotten worse over time. And my theory it's gotten worse over time. And my theory is because their console launches today, Stadia, and I thought over time they were slowly going to downgrade stuff because their servers are going to be using something else. Like they're going to be putting games out in 4K.
Do
you want to do some?
I don't know the back end of that. So,
do you want to do some questions?
Yeah, let's.
All right. So this is from Christopher with an F. I don't know if that's a nickname spelling or. Discotech seems to have pillars, and they put pillars in quotations when it comes to its lineup. You guys have Go, which Devilman, Cutie Honey, and Zinger content. Lupin is a huge thing for you guys. Are you setting up City Hunter as the next pillar in your guys' lineup?
All right, so I'm not the guy that licenses stuff. I just make the discs, but I can say that I don't think there is that much of a plan as far as, because Discotech does basically no marketing aside from social media.
You guys don't advertise at all.
No, and I making that compilation trailer that we've been pushing the last 6 months or so. That was basically me telling Selby, the owner of Discotex, like, "Hey, you got to do something. Let's just put some of this out there because a lot of this old stuff, the kids don't know what it looks like. They have no idea if they'd like it or not."
Yeah.
And we can make a do it now trailer. The old timers love that shit. So yeah, there's really not a huge game plan as far as having pillar series. That's not really everyone wants a nice franchise, and if Selby gets one, he definitely wants to get more of the same show as if it does well. And City Hunter, he managed to just get all in one fell swoop, so that was easy. Other stuff. Yep,
he must be a really good businessman.
I can't understand what he's doing sometimes, but he's outsmarted me on several occasions. So we're very, very, very different personality wise. He's really, really chill. I don't think I've seen him upset, but I've never seen him yell. And I'm extremely high strung.
Yeah,
I mean, okay, so this is a complete digression, but I was, because I'm leaving on vacation. I was just like white knuckling like all the stuff I have to get done before I leave, and it's been bothering me so much that just finishing the last, or looking like I'm going to finish the last project I have to finish before I leave. Last night was the first good night's sleep I've had in 3 weeks.
Yeah, you've been up. Like, I've been getting home, guys. You guys know I work super late, and I've been getting home, and I've seen Justin's on Twitter at like 4 a.m. my time, and I'm like, what the hell is this dude doing up so late? And then
I'll tell you what I'm doing.
7 discs.
I'm right here working. I don't sleep. Well, anyway, this is why I'm going on vacation, because I was losing my shit. Yeah, but anyway, to get back to the question, I don't think there is a big thing, but obviously we become known for Lupin, so Selby wants to do as much Lupin as we can, and TMS wants us to do as much Lupin as we can, to the point where it's just like, okay, guys, enough Lupin. There's so much Lupin, but there's so much Lupin, especially the big. Okay, so the big thing right now that we're dealing with, and I don't think I'm tipping my hand too much saying this, the big thing right now for us with Lupin is all of the TV specials. There's like 27 of them.
Does that include like Goemon's Blood Spray?
No, those are new OVA series on top of the TV specials. The TV specials are annual, and they've been coming out since the early 90s.
Holy shit.
Yeah, and they're standalone, so we're trying to figure out how to release them without just inundating people, because you release too much Lupin all in one time frame and just it stops selling because people get overwhelmed. They give too much to buy, and they just stop thinking about it. So juggling, because we do want to release all of them, but trying to figure out how much to release that the fans can handle at one point, and that we can handle putting out. It's tough, and we want to get them all out, but at some point we'll get them all. And also it's not always possible. Like, we're like, can we double them up on a disc? And TMS went back to the producer in Japan. They're like, well, some you can, some you can't. Yeah. That was my reaction.
So was that like a little peek into the future? You guys are doing all the TV specials?
We haven't announced a lot of individual ones, but we've stated before that our goal eventually is to release every Lupin everything.
That's awesome. My favorite part 5. Well, my favorite anime in the last handful of years was part 5. It was great, and that was, I haven't seen that yet. But it's so
all the new stuff that's been coming out, especially the ones with the Koike designs, has been incredible. We just started working on has this been announced yet? I don't know if it's been announced yet.
Box set 4?
Well, no. But talking about the Koike ones, I'll just say that I just got to take a look at the new Koike one, Fujiko's Lie, because TMS hired me to make the screening disc for Otakon. And oh my god, some of the set pieces and the action set pieces are some of the most incredible that I've ever seen animated. It's so pretty.
So that's gonna play at Otakon this year or this coming year?
Oh, that played at last Otakon.
Last Otakon? Okay.
Over the summer. Other stuff, well, there will be a chance to see it soon. TMS paid money to dub it, so
that's awesome.
Yeah.
But do you guys like you have to watch this content over and over and over and over again?
No, I do not. Thank Christ.
There are some.
Yes, and there are shows that I have to work on that I want to hang myself because it just drives me up a wall. Like, I'll give you an example. So last year we did Catgirl Nuku Nuku. I loved the original OVAs, but that box set had all of the complete dumpster fire TV series that followed it.
So you're just like, I want to kill myself.
Yeah. However, thank God I don't actually have to sit and watch it. I just have to spot check to see that everything lined up properly. Once I build a disc, I then ship it off to Mark, our QC guy, or there's one other guy, Caleb, that I just hired, who's just getting up to speed. It's their job to sit through the entire disc, hit every button, navigate as exhaustively as they can, watch every track. Now that's the real killer, when you hate a show and there are 4 audio tracks and you have to watch them all.
Yeah, no, that's all right. I don't. I mean, but at the same time, if you love a show, that could be a really cool little, like a cool little job. Like Logan was telling me that he just loves doing that stuff. And
well, Logan is amazing. I've come to rely on him very, very heavily. He just saved my ass with Honey and Clover. Oh god, that show.
Really?
I love Honey and Clover. I absolutely adore that show. But obviously we were reusing the Viz assets for that show, and Viz did not do a good job. They did a number of things that we would never do today. They burned in all of the signed subtitles onto the video. Which, you're not supposed to mar the video, but that also means I wasn't able to rip the subtitles because they weren't on the subtitle script. So we had to go through and transcribe all of those burned in on-screen text subtitles and retime them. Then they swapped everyone's name order in the subtitles. So you heard someone say, Yamada-san, and they subtitled it her first name.
That's okay. So does this stuff happen because it happened before there was like a uniformed way to do this stuff? Because a lot of these seem like really weird choices to make as as big as a
Viz was kind of the last company on board with kind of so in the late 90s, early 2000s, there was on a lot of the nerdier fans and a few industry people congregated on the Anime on DVD bulletin boards. Mm-hmm. And there they kind of, through discussion and feedback, they managed to suss out a pretty exhaustive best practices as far as putting anime on DVD and Blu-ray. Viz was largely absent from that conversation. ADV was right on board. I was on board while I was at CPM. And Media Blasters also paid attention to that stuff. And then Bandai and Genion also kind of adopted those. But Viz just kind of, was they didn't really they didn't really participate in any of that and was kind of unaware of any of it. So they just kind of did their own thing and didn't listen to any fan feedback for years. And finally, I had a conversation with their VP of video production at AX years ago, because we were talking and he was like, fans really get upset when we license something. Why? I'm just like, well, That was also the time, to be fair, that was also the time when they were not finishing like any series at all.
Yeah.
Every show they were abandoning before they finished it.
I have a couple of Viz DVDs, and they're not very good.
They've gotten a lot better in the last few years. I did some authoring work for them briefly, and by that point, they pretty much knew what they were doing. But they had some personnel problems.
Is JoJo's Viz, or is that Funimation?
JoJo's is Viz.
Okay.
I believe they do a good job with that one. I don't have any of those discs myself.
I have them all. I watch them on Crunchyroll. But I bought them because I love JoJo's.
Right. They pretty much have it under control now, with the exception of when they try to upscale something, which they're still not good at. But
this is having some manga problems right now. I don't know if you
are they?
Yeah, a lot of their book spines are misaligned to the point where it's not like a little misaligned is fine, but like half of the image on the spine is on the back of the book. It's really weird.
Wow.
Yeah, it's like and it's happening for it's happening for like My Hero Academia. It's happening for their big titles.
Ooh, that's not good. That sounds like they're having issues with their print public, because that's not Viz specifically. That's their printer.
Yeah,
that
I'm just looking at my shelf and I can see like 4 of them that are just misaligned, and people obviously are freaking out on because people are outraged by everything, and I honestly, if the inside is fine, the spine doesn't bother me at all.
Yeah.
So, but we have.
I'll take those any day of the week over how manga used to be published.
Which was how?
So at Central Park Media actually had a manga division, and we never got the film elements. We never got the original art boards from Japan. And very, very rarely did we ever get digital assets. So we would literally have to take apart a tankobon with an X-Acto blade, use a copier. We literally would hire freelancers to go to Kinko's and blow up every page to like about 8.5, not 8.5 by 11, bigger than that, but like up to like 11 by 17 or so. Use whiteout to white out everything, and then print out all the English word balloons, cut them out, paste them on, and then that would go to a company that would photograph them. Obviously, this would just like the level of degradation in that image would just be insane. Like the stuff would get blown out, detail would get lost, anything that was originally color and had been reduced to grayscale, you just couldn't read anything. It was bad.
That sounds like the most awful thing for a freelancer, to go and have a copy 200 pages at least backwards, because manga's backwards, and
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, they had to flop it too. They had to flop it.
Holy
I forgot about
crap. That. That's a lot of steps just to get a book out.
Oh, well, the hentai was even funnier.
Why?
So, okay, to make the manga all ages for the they often had to like erase nipples on the women, on naked women. There was one of our employees kind of jokingly referred to herself as the nipple buster. But for the hentai, obviously the genitalia would be obscured, and usually it was just a white blotch over it. So we would actually hire the freelancers to redraw the vaginas.
Were they good at drawing vaginas?
I wouldn't know.
I don't know why it's so funny to me. Could you imagine being like a freelancer and being like, I got a job, and it's like you go to I have to draw vaginas on a hentai. Man, I'm so glad we live in 2019 now. Not back then.
I mean, yeah, it was a weird time. It was a weird time.
Oh man. Oh, some of the hentai back then was really weird. So I can only imagine.
I mean, well, a lot of the hentai manga that we were publishing at the time was all Toshio Maeda stuff for the most part. So Urotsuki Doji, La Blue Girl, the classics.
I'm not very versed in hentai.
It was all the tentacle stuff.
Oh, that's even better for a freelancer. Good for them. We have a question that I mean I'm kind of keeping a look on the chat, but we have a question that kind of fits into our talk here. How does it feel to be the first release 4K anime discs?
Wow, that lower third looks really good. I'm really impressed with this StreamYard service.
Oh, StreamYard is fantastic. And then once we have a name for the show, I will get like a logo done and where it says live with StreamYard and stuff. That will all be disappeared. That will all
cool.
Be so, but yeah.
Awesome.
How does it feel?
I'm really, really proud of that first one. I'm really proud of how Cobra came out. Everyone that's seen it, I mean, obviously it's been denoised, and there's not a whole lot I could have done about that. A few people have asked me if it would have been possible to add in artificial film grain like I did with the Galaxy Express movies. I don't know how to do that. There's one program I have that might have been able to do it, DaVinci Resolve, and managed to keep the HDR color space. It's really, HDR color space is so fragile. Like half of my I probably wasted a good 2 or 3 weeks trying out software that said it supported HDR and didn't, and ended up fucking everything up. So I basically just encoded directly from what the licensor, what TMS gave to me. I didn't want to make any intermediate steps just because I was so scared of screwing it up. That said, the HDR is so vivid and bright on Cobra, and so like that, and it's intoxicating to watch.
Beautiful.
It really
it's gorgeous. Now,
have you actually managed to see it in HDR?
Yes, I saw it in HDR, and when we talked last time, I was like, how is an anime going to look in HDR? I couldn't comprehend something animated looking good, and when I watched it, I was like, holy shit. And then that made me excited for 4K release number 2 that you guys very cheekily announced in a trailer. So how does that feel?
I'm so stoked to be doing Miyazaki in HDR.
That's insane.
That's such a feather in our cap, right?
Yeah, that's.
And I know Brady, who is in the chat right now. He's
which by the way, he wants to know what was the pay rate of the hentai vagina redrawings.
Oh, I don't know. It wasn't much. It was CPM.
Oh.
Yeah, honestly, we probably could, if it was legal, we probably could have paid angry 14-year-olds to do it. They would have been more than happy to. It's like, hey, you guys doodle vaginas all the time. You want to make some money?
So, Brady, what was his role with the 4K on the HDR?
Well, he didn't, Cobra, he didn't touch because that wasn't his project. He is doing Cagliostro. The stuff that he has to do, he doesn't really need to touch any of the HDR stuff. That's all on my end, and he's just kind of redoing everything. Because when we did the old Cagliostro Blu-ray, that was before I'd moved to the better authoring software that allows us to do stuff like navigable art galleries and subtitles that overlap without blinking. So he needs to go back and rejigger everything so we can take advantage of that. Brady did the cover design for Cobra. Sorry about that. I forgot about that. He's got to go back and go over all the subtitles, make sure that if stuff's overlapping, that all the timing is on point. He has to go through the menus, make sure that they're in the new format. He has to go through redo the art galleries so you can actually flip through them instead of just sit through a 30-minute video aimlessly. It shouldn't be a ton of work, and the thing about 4K Blu-ray is that the subtitles are all still in 1080p.
Okay.
So it's not a huge difference there.
We have a question that kind of leads into this topic. This is from Jackson. What is your workflow like between a normal Blu-ray, SD on Blu-ray, and 4K? Is there any difference on how you approach each format?
4K is completely different because I can't use Premiere. Premiere says it supports HDR, and the new version that just came out says it has fixed some things, but I don't believe them. So I can't use Premiere at all for HDR stuff. So I have to use DaVinci Resolve. It has to be the studio version of DaVinci Resolve, which luckily it's not that expensive. It's $300, but also requires a very powerful video card. So I had to, I had to upgrade. Won't run it all on my my old aging trash can Mac Pro. I got to do that all on the Windows side. And then, but so honestly, aside from that, the workflow is about the same. To format everything out and synchronize audio, we just do all that in Premiere. And, if we have to trim off anything and re-export it, that's all done in Premiere. And then subtitles is done. We make a low quality proxy file as an MP4 that we can send to subtitle timey people like Logan. Or translators, and they just do it in Agisub, the freeware that was invented for fan subs. That's what we use. And then from there, I render out the subtitles to PNG files with a custom script and some command line tools. I encode the video to Blu-ray spec or high def Blu-ray spec with command line tools and some custom scripts that I wrote. And audio, it's either left as WAV files or encoded to DTS with some special DTS software, or Dolby Digital I just use FFmpeg now. It's just easier. And then it all goes into Cinerist, the authoring program, and I put it all together, add the chapter stops, import the menu, which is a Photoshop file, program everything, hit build, and then play it in Cyberlink Power DVD and see where I fucked up and just try to fix everything. And then I burn it, send it off to Mark or Caleb, and they watch through everything. They write up a report. They send the report to me. It's a big Google spreadsheet of everything they found, and I either go forget it, or I fix it, or I go don't know how to fix that, guys. Sorry. And then I rebuild the disk. I build out the special replication files, and then those things are huge. They're the size of the full disk, like 50 gigs, and I send those via Dropbox to Selby, who he extracts the disk from it. He burns himself a copy. He does a final check, and then he sends it to the plant, and they etch a glass master and start stamping.
And then we got a question from Jeff.
Yeah.
What are you looking at when you're looking at a show that has already had an upscale out in Japan? How do you decide if it's worth redoing yourself, like with the Galaxy Express 999 or Honey and Clover?
It depends on what we've got. Did Honey and Clover get an upscale in Japan?
I'm not sure.
If so, that's news to me. But Galaxy Express, that was one of those where they really overly smoothed it out and really kind of tinkered a lot with the image. And our customers don't like that very much, and I personally don't like that very much. I like to see at least some of the original film grain, if not all of it. So we got the original Digibetas, the remaster they did in the early 2000s that was used on the Japanese DVDs, and we took a look at it, and I did a couple tests to see how I could upscale it, and I shared it with the team, and we're just like, yeah, let's just redo this. Sometimes they won't let us. Sometimes we have to just use what Japan tells us to use, but in this case, we could do it. Honey and Clover, that was a really high quality, really high budget Digipaint show. The only problem with it, and this has been what I've been dealing with for the last couple days, is that 95% of it looks amazing upscaled. Just perfect. Telecine or inverse telecine, it's 24p, it's gorgeous. You almost can't tell it wasn't natively HD. Then there's a handful of cuts where they tinkered with it after they animated it, like they sped it up in post production, or they added a like a shake effect, a video effect to like when they're on the train, the whole screen just shakes a very little bit, and that doesn't follow the frame rate of 24p that it was originally animated in. So if you try to turn it back into 24p, it doesn't go well, and I kind of spent the last few days trying to figure out how to deal with that. And you can only do so much. There will just be a handful of cuts that just look a little funky, but honestly, it's better than having the whole thing still interlaced, because interlaced upscales look terrible.
Now, for Galaxy Express, you put an artificial grain on the actual movie.
Yes, on the first two movies, yeah.
And when I heard that, and when a lot of people heard that, they were kind of hesitant, because the word artificial grain is kind of a weird, like a weird idea to like see that. But when you actually see it, when like the way you did it, it looked phenomenal, and it fit.
Well, thank you.
It fit amazingly.
It's actually not as unusual as a lot of people think it is. When you do a digital restoration, you can't just remove all of the dirt, or you can't just remove all of the dirt and then keep all of the grain. It just doesn't work like that. The computer can't tell the difference. So what is often done is when you add the denoising step, you can actually, within the denoiser, add back in a certain amount of the original image just to get a little bit of the grain effect, so it doesn't look completely squeaky clean. And that's what a lot of them do. They unfortunately did not do that with the Galaxy Express movies. And then if you add in, or you can just, as a step later, you can add in artificial grain. And they've there was some really good work being done in like the late 90s and early 2000s of actually emulating specific film stocks. There was a film grain plugin for After Effects called Film Look that actually Adobe bought and actually built into Adobe After Effects. Unfortunately, they haven't updated it since, so it's still 16-bit, and it's very slow. So each of those movies took about a week to render out that additional film grain.
So during that time, do you have to like just leave it be? Just just pray to God your computer doesn't like mess up,
crash, or well, you can still do other things because it's 16-bit and single threaded, so it's using literally like 8% of my computer's capacity while it's doing that. So I can still do other things, but yeah, it's just sitting there and it's just chugging away, and you just have to just kind of ignore it till it's over. But just trying to plan your work and make sure that you have enough time. That's the hard part. That, and this freaking office heats up like an oven.
So how do you balance? I mean, you're obviously stressed out to the max. You're going on vacation soon.
Sometimes this last few weeks have been special. It's not.
This last year has been insane for you. The Cyborg project, Bobobo, Giant Robo. Yeah, just you have had so much on your plate the last year, and then now 7 discs a month.
Yeah, I mean, it's not permanently 7 discs a month. It goes back and forth between 6 and 7. But this year, we have a big Excel sheet where we, or a Google spreadsheet where we map out everything that we have to do. And I literally, because, Selby has just been buying so much stuff because he's been managing to, when something comes up for selling, you have to go for it or you might lose it. You might lose the chance. Someone else might scoop it up. So understandably, he's been just cutting deals as he can. Well, I took a look early this year, and I laid everything out, and I counted 1 disc, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I did the math, and I'm like, Selby, we've been doing 6 discs a month. If we keep at it at this rate, if you stop licensing everything today, it will take us 3 years to finish everything.
That's insane.
And so he's like, oh.
Which is good for you.
I mean, hey, job security. I'm not
Yep.
not complaining about that, especially in this business. But yeah, so this he just got back from Japan last month, and I'm like, "Dude, so what did you buy?" And he's like, not a lot because we have so much. I'm like, thank you. There's so much. And it's actually a problem because some of these times he'll license something new, and the license will be like, okay, and when's it coming out? And we're like, 2012, 2022? And they're like, no, how about next year? And we're like, okay, how about next year? What do we delay? What do we push back? There's no way we can do this. So yeah, and it's just, we only have so much bandwidth.
And you guys have been putting out, what, 3 discs at least a month for the last 2 years now at this point, year and a half?
Yeah. I mean, it's all over the place because for example, I'll have one release that's like 5 discs, like 12 Kingdoms was 5 discs. So we'll put that out and we'll only have 2 releases that month because one of them was 5 discs. Standard def Blu-rays, because they're so labor intensive, they don't really. Well, yeah, because think about how much is on there.
I mean, yeah, Justian was what, 47 episodes?
Yeah, so now imagine if it's dual language.
Yeah.
Now all of that has to be QC'd. All of those have to be subtitled. All that has to be chapter stopped. I do kind of try to make it easier on myself because if Japan, delivers them as volumes, I'm like, I'll just keep them as is. Just have 7 volumes on one disc I have to keep track of rather than like 40 episodes. Way easier. But that saves me some labor, but not a ton. And I'll whenever I build these discs, I print a nice label on them and I send them to the QCer, and it has TRT, total running time, on there. And I have only once crossed 24 hours. There was one disc
on the disc.
On the disc, 24 hours of video on one disc.
And which was that disc?
Which was that? I think it wasn't God Mazinger. It was another. It was something we did last year. It was another was it a Mazinger? I don't remember. It was something Mazinger-ish that we came out with last year.
Last year you guys put out Mazinger Impact, right? Mazinger. You guys put out Get a Robo. You guys put out God Mars. Someone said God Mars in the.
No, just God Mars wasn't. Was 2 discs, I think.
Yeah. Yes, it was.
So hold on, let me look at the catalog.
That whole shelf behind me, in between the bookshelves, except for the first top row, that's all discs.
Great Mazinger. That's what it was. Great Mazinger. That has 24 hours on one disc, and luckily that one looks okay. But that's a little more than I feel comfortable cramming on one disc. But it was like something like 50 or 61 episodes. It wasn't worth splitting, and it was sub only, so I could make it happen. But most SD Blu-rays, if they're packed, they're somewhere between 14 and 20 hours of content on a disc.
That's a lot of content.
Yeah.
That's a lot of content.
It really is. And if there's multiple audio tracks on there, those discs get really full, and just cramming them on starts becoming something of an art.
Now, another question that we got, which I'm going to it's really long, so I'm just going to kind of break it down and paraphrase it.
Okay.
Does Selby just have a good eye for things that will maybe get popular and blow up, or is he just lucky? Because you guys got 5, you guys had 5 centimeters per second, and then, your name came out afterwards and was the biggest anime film of all time. All the mecha stuff, the isekai stuff that you guys have been putting out. Now that isekai is like the fad, you guys have a lot of classic isekai. So
it's a combination of both. He does have his ear to the ground in kind of a unique way because unlike a lot of the bigger companies, he both is still an otaku, but has no ego whatsoever. Like, I've tried, back when I was at ANN, I tried to get him to come on Ancast or do interviews, and he just refuses. He just wants no attention. In fact, he doesn't even like me being put on the credits.
Which is so weird to me.
Yeah.
Because he has, I mean, obviously I'm a huge Discotheque fanboy. You guys are my favorite company. And I think it's because of the content you guys put out. Like no one else has at the time, Devilman, no one else was putting out Devilman or even more Dante or.
Yeah, well, Devilman, that was kind of luck. He'd already had Devilman for a while when Devilman Crybaby blew up. So he and a lot of it was luck and a lot of it was good partners. Like 5 centimeters, you don't have to be an idiot. Shinkai has always been popular to some extent. Nobody knew that your name would blow up like it did, but everyone, 5 centimeters. It was a very popular show, and so Crunchyroll got the rights to it, and they needed a disc partner, and so Selby leapt at the chance, and it worked out very well for everyone.
That's awesome. That's actually really
But the fact that anyway, getting back to his the reason I bring that up is he works his own booth. Like everywhere that you see the little Discotheque booth, and it looks like nothing. Like they don't have any decoration. It's just a big table with all the discs laid out, and him and his partner Laura just going through and selling everyone. They have the big the cash belt and the credit card iPads. I've actually helped them work the booth on a few times. It's quite a rush. They because they work the booth, they know what people are interested in and what people are asking. Yeah, that's what's that's how he knows what there is some sort of secret pent up demand for.
Do you guys ever get annoyed with the fans just being like, license this? Like you get.
I do a lot.
Because every time you guys announce something, it's like people aren't happy about it. They're like, announce this show.
Well, I try to look at it as like we're their go-to for when people want stuff that's really obscure that they don't think anyone else will ever pick up, which is kind of nice, and that's the charitable way of looking at it. But how you see it in the moment, for me anyway, is that I spent like umpteen months on a show. Like, God, fucking Bobobo was in the pipeline for over 2 years. I just looked at the original like captures off the tape I made. They're dated October 7th, 2017.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that's how long that took.
2020. And it's coming out on my wife's birthday. So if you're watching today, happy birthday.
Tell your wife I'm so sorry.
Yeah, she last year you guys put out Tetsujin 28 on my birthday on the 29th, and then her birthday is the day before mine. And this year, next year, the next batch of releases in January are technically on her birthday, but I've been getting my shipments early. Both October and November's Discotheque releases got shipped in October, like mid-October. So I was like kind of freaking out. I was like, what the hell is this $150 charge on my credit card? What is this? Oh, it's Discotheque.
You must be ordering from Right Stuff.
Yep, I am. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, everything we're shipping directly to Right Stuff now, so any orders from Right Stuff are probably going to go out stupid early for the foreseeable future. That whole distribution meltdown has been just
40,000 subtitles, says Jeff, for Bobobo.
Yep, that sounds about right. That luckily Brady took care of most of that. I think he spent most of his time dealing with it in the fetal position. The weird thing about Bobobo, because it is so overwhelming, it's so rapid fire, it's so random and senseless, and the jokes are just completely out there, you can't tell if things are a mistake.
So that's probably even more of a pain in the ass. Yes,
and it took Brady months to figure out that he shouldn't even bother subtitling the on-screen text for the dub version because it didn't air like that originally, and they rewrote it to the point where they're just making stuff up that it says, and if you subtitle it, it ruins the joke.
Yeah, I mean,
so it's like you can try to adjust it to match the dub, but half the time, sometimes the characters just go, "What does that say?"
So when you guys do translations, who translates for you guys? If the show's not already
we have a team. We have this amazing guy, Sheldon Durzka, who he translates a ton. He also does a lot of manga work. We have Elizabeth Ellis, who is just a champion, and she's the queen of old mecha shows. She, whenever something vintage comes up, any of your shows, any of your favorites comes up.
I actually just got. I'm trying to, I have almost a complete discotheque title, so I have a discotheque collection. So I just got this in the mail last couple of days.
Well, that one I think we ripped Pioneer Jenny on subs on that one on Die Guard.
I love mecha, man. You guys are the only place putting out. Yeah, you guys are the only company putting out classic mecha.
Yeah.
Which next month, Giant Robo.
Yeah.
How's that? Which has probably got the most special features of any of your guys' discs?
God, that was another one. So Brady produced both Bobobo and oh yeah, he just mentioned Die Guards from ADV, so that's where those came from. He produced both Bobobo and Giant Robo, and both of those were giant albatross projects that almost killed us all. And he somehow finished both of them within a couple months of each other.
And he's also working on the game too during this time too.
Yeah.
Brady, how the hell do you even sleep, dude? That's insane.
Waiting for he doesn't. You think I keep weird hours? He's on East Coast time, and I'm sending him messages over Slack at 1 a.m. my time, and he's still up. Yeah,
I like when I found out Brady was when I got into actually talking to all you guys, all the discotheque people. And then I looked and I'm like, oh, Brady's making video games as well.
Yeah, he's at Lab Zero.
Holy shit. Which, by the way, Brady, your guys' new game is phenomenal. Indivisible. Amazing game. He says he did not sleep for a while. So
just shocked. I didn't see that coming.
So there's a question here. I threw this in. If you don't want to talk about it, you don't have to talk about it. I have no idea what this is about. What was your beef with DigiBro about?
It wasn't a beef. He had he put a YouTube video up, and unfortunately, a lot of people who watch YouTubers, a lot of YouTubers, and this is an epidemic, just kind of make shit up and don't do any fact checking, and just kind of come up with theories based on nothing, and will just present it. And their talent is that they're so cogent that they to someone who doesn't know anything about any of this, they just sounds reasonable, and it just fans internalize it. So DigiBro, I actually like most of his content.
Me too, and
he is very good at what he does. But he came out with a video that was basically accused Crunchyroll of not paying much back to Japan, and suggested that something like not GoFundMe, what's the ongoing one?
Kickstarter?
The one where you pay every month.
Oh, Patreon.
Patreon would be a better way, and that's how he would want to pay for anime and pay direct to the studio.
Which Trigger does.
Well, I got a bunch of people asking about it on the Answer Man inbox, and I sat and watched the video because I don't watch a ton of anime YouTubers, and I was watching this and I'm like, he doesn't know how any of this works. So I wrote an Answer Man explaining at length why Patreon is a terrible idea for funding anime. Crowdfunding in general just can't reach the numbers that anime needs to exist. And I realized that I was very careful because his heart was in the right place. He wanted to contribute in a way that he thought would make a difference, and also support the stuff that he specifically likes. Whereas, Crunchyroll, the idea is that you throw all your money into a bucket, they use the bucket to pay for whatever. But there are, benchmarks that each show hits, and they get additional funds. It's a very fair system. Each contract is negotiated and Japan does drive a hard bargain. So it's not like it's like, you know, it Crunchyroll pays a lot of money into that ecosystem, a ton of money. And honestly, between streaming here and the market in Japan, or in China, it's over half of the revenue that comes in for a given show these days, and you have to respect that. There's never been more money flowing from the U.S. to Japan for anime content as there has been now, and Crunchyroll has been a huge part of that. So yeah, I basically I had to correct that. That wasn't how things work, and I had to, you know, get that out there. And I had no beef with Digibro himself, but I do have a beef when people kind of sell an alternate reality that they just kind of came up with out of ignorance as fact. And that's kind of why I'm here doing this with you, is because, you know, there is so much misinformation on anime YouTube. There's a lot. There's so much, and it's so frustrating because, you know, I don't write for ANN anymore, and, you know, I just didn't have time writing Answer Man because all those have to be fact checked, and a lot of times, like, people don't send email questions like they used to. It's just, so every week I was just scrambling to come up with something usable to use for the column, and I was just sick of it. It was kind of punishing. So yeah, that's why I'm here with you now. Maybe we can get some truth out there.
Even getting some questions gathered for this, there was a handful of questions I was just like, I'm not gonna ask Justin that. Like, just but yeah, there is a lot of misinformation when it comes to anime YouTubers and manga tubers, which I would consider more myself manga versed because I read more manga than I watch anime.
Sure. Well, it fits your schedule better.
Yeah, it also fits my schedule better. But also, we have a Blu-ray player at work now, so and I'm there.
Oh, that's bad news.
It's bad news, but I'm there at 8:30 in the morning, usually, roughly, like on average, and we don't open till 4. So within that time, I can watch a good chunk of a show or almost an entire show, and you know, I'm not like completely, you know, I'm not entirely zoned in on it, but I can get the gist of what's going on. So that's how I've watched Just Band as many times as I have, which is nuts. But where was I going with this? I forgot. Someone asked a question and I got sidetracked and I looked over there. Well, yeah, there's a lot of misinformation. I started when I started getting more into, because I'm not into current anime as much. It's just nothing, like there's a handful of series each.
How do you watch something subtitled at work?
So if I'm every day, I do the same shit. I chop green peppers, I chop cucumbers, tomatoes, lettuce. The TV's huge in the back of the kitchen. But I'm doing the same stuff, like rolling meatballs out by hand or making garlic bread.
So you don't really have to look at what you're doing.
I don't really have to look what I'm doing. When I'm doing like if I'm chopping something, I usually like look and then I just real quick, I can get it down real fast. But then also if I get caught up and I have a couple hours left, I just sit there and relax and just watch TV or listen to a podcast or watch YouTube videos. But I am going to slowly start transitioning my content into classic anime titles, and I'm doing one right now, and I'm doing research on it because I don't want to say anything false. Because there's also, I mean, like, there's a lot of content out there, especially for newer stuff. And I don't think there's Ben at the Stage is pretty good too. Do you ever watch him?
I actually went on a huge binge of his stuff a couple months ago. I like his stuff. Occasionally he'll say something and talk out of his ass. I'm just like, that's not what that is. It drove me nuts. Like his review of Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust, he was like, this is so beautiful because it's cell paint. I'm like, no, first of all, that show was digital. Second of all, it's grainy as fuck because they didn't save the digital elements. And we had to take it off, blown out film for the remaster. So yeah, that drives me nuts. But his tone is so kind of negative, and kind of relentlessly down on everything that it kind of started to bother me after a bit.
Yeah, he's very cynical when it comes to stuff.
Yeah, and that crossed with the kind of repetitive nerd humor I kind of got a little bit sick of, but he does really good work, and I'm sure Discotech owes a lot of sales of Mad Bull to him. Uh,
There's a
um,
there's a guy named, I can't think, Blaze. There's a guy on YouTube named Blaze. He doesn't do reviews, but every single haul video is nothing but Discotech titles. Every
cool.
single haul. And
I appreciate that. Maybe I should start watching him.
most of my hauls are Discotech titles too. Actually, that, like, just like I said, that entire shelf between
Yes,
the two.
yes, but you're already my friend, so
Blaze
you don't count.
is
You're
really nice. Blaze is really nice.
all
If you guys should go check him out. When will Discotech put out their first CED, aka video?
right. I don't know that there is a way to make those anymore.
Is there not?
Those are terrible.
Just beyond on CED, let's go. That would be.
I was just watching a video last night. There's apparently a community that makes custom etched 78s.
Why?
It's just their hobby. It's just a fun thing to do. I mean, hell, I've made VCDs before just for shits and giggles.
Just for fun?
I kind of have a weird, not rational love of VCD just because it's such a janky format, but it was so like the way that a lot of people consumed content for so long, and there was kind of, because you never knew what you were going to find, especially if you were like me and you got to go to Chinatown during their heyday, and you would just flip through all these piles of just weird shit. You had no idea what it was. You had no idea what you were going to find. So it's I can't rationalize it. It's stupid, but I kind of like VCDs.
Professor says I'd buy some laser discs if you put them out.
Yeah, I would too. I mean, they look terrible.
I was looking into a laser disc the other day, for a old tokusatsu show called Guyferd, not Guyver, Guyfer, which Capcom put out. Capcom produced a tokusatsu show, which is a mix between Guyver and Fist of the North Star is what it's like pegged at, and I thought it's pretty good. I actually like it. It's very violent. It's really, really fun. But you have to like tokusatsu.
I still have my Laserdisc player hooked up, and every once in a while, Brady or I will capture something off of it for a bonus feature or something. That every once in a blue moon, it comes in handy for digging something out of the grave. But yeah, for the most part, it looks too bad to be usable. It used to be like Laserdisc was this big, huge improvement over VHS, and it was. But now, we've gotten so much better that you can barely tell the difference.
Man, people are just dropping Betamax or bust on the YouTube.
Oh, that's Logan. He's just being
funny. DVHS for those HD anime. VCD. Let's move into the only comment for me, but it's also tied into you. So
okay.
Flip, I knew that you used to own a record label that actually got pretty popular. Can you talk about the breakdown?
You did?
Yes, I owned a electronic music label, and by popular,
this explains a lot, actually.
Can you talk about the process of getting a record out, and Justin can chime in and talk about the similarities of putting out a anime disc. So I used to own a record label called Silent Motion. I started it. I mean, I haven't owned it in almost 3 years because I sold it off when I got married. So yeah, I love electronic music. I love not mainstream stuff. I love a lot of underground bass music, a lot of techno, and I wanted to start something and put out vinyl as well as digital. So we did a handful of vinyl releases, sold out on each on each of them, which the base number of discs that you can order for vinyl is 300. So
that's pretty low.
It's very low, but for a very niche genre of music, that's actually quite a lot, and you're taking a huge gamble because
yeah.
So to get something done, you have to get the contract, in which you legally have to have like a lawyer or somebody look over it, and when they sign it, not only are you legally bound, but they are too. So I was pretty nice to the artists. I just wanted to make back my initial investment.
Sure.
And then they got 90% of all royalties. This was just a
Wow.
hobby. I didn't try to make money off of this. I lost a lot of money off of this, actually. We're talking thousands.
I can imagine.
Because we had a concert every night in every Monday night in St. Louis. So I would drive 2.5 hours there every Sunday night, stay in a hotel with the artist, and then we would play the show, get everything set up. But to get a vinyl out, which I'm guessing is what they wanted to know, a disc, I'm going to assume they mean vinyl. So you have to get the contract, and then you have to get artwork, which artwork would probably be like the covers for you guys, which would probably be what Brady does.
Yeah.
And the artwork can cost
We have a
anywhere
few designers.
But man, Brady's been killing it though with the Giant Robo and the Galaxy Express box set coming out.
Oh yeah, well he's definitely our most ambitious designer. Let's
Brady, you are killing it, man. But so artists can cost anywhere between $200 to $500 for a piece of art, and they have to make the art in such a way that when it's blown up for a vinyl cover, it doesn't look all messed up. So usually,
it has to be pretty high res.
So we had like not an in-house, but we had an in-house guy for sure for all of our digital content. So we all had like a uniform look. And then for vinyl, we had a person who did paint, like he actually painted. So he would paint this acrylic cover on a big piece of artboard. I'm not an artist, so this is going to sound terrible. But he would, take a picture of it, photograph it, do whatever he did to make it digital. And then he would send it off to me. I would send it off to the artist. If he didn't like it, that was money down the drain because you have to pay the artist for their work. And then luckily we only had to do that once. So then we would send it back. And then once the art's done, you have to get the actual vinyl. And for people who don't know, when you get the vinyl, mastering for vinyl is just completely different than it is for mastering for digital content. iTunes has its own mastering process, kind of like how you said Netflix has its own stuff for putting video up. iTunes is completely different. It's an entirely different thing. So if you want something up on iTunes, you have to pay for 3 masters, and the most expensive is vinyl, and that's about $1,000 right there for all 3. So you're right there. You're at $1,500 usually, roughly. And then mastering, once the mastering is done, they have this. It's a lacquer plate, and they either send it to you, or you can send it shipping right to the actual processing plant, and where they will produce 5 copies. And you just like the quality control, I have to sit there and listen to every single copy, both sides, because if there's anything wrong with the actual audio quality, it could affect the entire even if it's on one, it could affect the entire run. So I usually kept 2 copies. I'd ship 3 off to the artist, maybe 2 and 1 to my the first guy I ever signed ended up becoming my partner in the company. So then once that's all done, it takes anywhere between 3 to 6 months because vinyl's insanely popular now. And we found out that to get a vinyl produced in the US is literally impossible. You're on a back order of about 2 years now.
Yeah.
So it's just insane because there's only 2 major plants here, but now they're starting to pop up more. But over in England, there's a couple ones that aren't as busy. So we would use them, and that alone is probably about $2,500. So what you're looking at roughly $4,500 to $5,000 of just sinking money into one vinyl release, and then you have to price it out to where it's not insanely overpriced. Also, you have to worry about
So what does your per unit cost end up being?
I think we were selling. It also depends on tracks because the more tracks you have on a vinyl, the more it costs to master. The less tracks,
right?
The cheaper it is.
Just manufacturing after all the fees, just like the per.
I would say probably about $13, maybe.
Wow, that high.
$13, $14 because vinyls is super. It costs a lot, but then there's also different weight, too. So like normal vinyl is like 140, and that's like the real flimsy vinyl. And then there's all the DJs, if you want a DJ, you want 180 gram, which is that super thick. If you chucked it at someone, it would cut their head off. Like it's super durable. So we did, because all of our clientele were mostly DJs.
Yeah.
So we would put out, of course, the heavier weight. And thank God the first release sold out instantly, and we made our money back and invested in the second release, and it sold out. I got the coolest thing though. The coolest moment was Skrillex reached out to me on email like around October, and he was like, "Hey, I want to play a couple tracks. Can you send them to me?" So I sent them over. I was like, "Hell yeah!" Never heard back from him. The dude's really busy. It probably wasn't even him. It was probably like a manager or whatever. Fast forward to New Year's Eve. I'm at a concert. Skrillex is playing, and he drops one of my record label's tracks live. And I was
nice.
like, holy crap. I was like, I put out the song. And so, yeah, I mean, it's definitely a life that I miss, because it's being in the music scene is a lot of fun. It's a lot of work. But getting to meet artists, getting to throw shows, and actually DJing myself was a ton of fun.
I've always wanted to learn to DJ, but I low priority, kind of busy. A little busy.
You should just at night, just get yourself like a couple CDJs and just.
I'm fine, honestly. I've so much I need to work on, and things I need to get off the ground. Like, okay, so the Blu-ray stuff, that's just my day job. I'm also coaching CrossFit.
Yeah, how do you find time for that?
I'm coaching CrossFit. I'm working out myself. I'm trying to cook more, because actually, so this is one thing. So I'm going to England, and I'm sure you've known this from me from Twitter. I am a giant Great British Bake Off otaku.
Yeah.
I have not one but 2 classes scheduled with former Bake Off, at least finalists, while I'm there.
Wait, what? Say that again?
I am studying under former Bake Off
to cook?
Finalists. Yes.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I'm really excited. So there's that. I am trying to finish a screenplay I've been working on for the last 6 months or so. I don't want to talk about it. And then I have some other stuff hopefully in the works too. So like I
got so much shit on your plate, man.
I have so much shit on my plate. This is why I don't sleep.
I feel you. I mean, I got the restaurant. I mean, the YouTube thing is just a hobby, but it's potentially could turn into something. And then launching a website next year. So, and I'm married and have a kid, and it's just like, ugh.
Yeah, and that whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Luckily, I can not being with anyone, I can go out with impunity. So I go. Actually, you care about this. I'm going to see Alessandro Cortini tonight.
Awesome.
Yeah.
How do you find time to go to all these concerts?
You got to make it a priority.
Gotta have fun.
And I've friends that this is my time to hang out with them too. So,
Zach, this guy is the guy I'm launching the website with. It'll be called Retro at Midnight. It's going to focus on retro manga, anime, and tokusatsu. Like a very focused stuff. Like obviously we might dip our toes into newer stuff, but
very cool.
Definitely. So I feel like writing. I'm more better at writing than I am speaking. So
more better, yes, clearly.
More better. See. We have one more question for you.
Okay, but before we get to that, I actually have a technical question for you.
Yes.
So I'm a big vinyl junkie. Okay. I'm not one of those yahoos that think it sounds better, but I am one of those yahoos that's like, I need to support my indie artists, and that's usually the best way of doing it. Yeah. That and merch. So I wanted to see if you knew the answer to this. Indie stuff sounds usually pretty good when I buy it on vinyl. Vintage stuff sounds really good, especially if they remastered it properly. Not good major label stuff sounds terrible.
Mhm.
Like the two worst albums I've ever bought were Taylor Swift, 1989, and Florence and the Machine. Don't judge me, I'm gay.
No, hey, I'm a straight man, and I love both of those. I love that T Swift album. Love it.
Yeah. But I mean, it's a classic. It's a classic, and it's mostly Jack Abramoff I'm reacting to on that. But still, but they sounded so bad. In fact, Florence and the Machine was so terrible, I've sold it because it sounded worn out and scuzzy and terrible. Is it the loudness mastering? Is it what are they doing?
What they're doing, and I can probably say this with 90% certainty, is that they are not mastering it for vinyl. They're mastering it for digital, and they're using just a dot wave format to just put it on an actual record. That's all that they're doing. Because when you
they're cutting corners.
They're cutting a lot of corners and a lot of cheap corners. For our digital mastering, we use a different person, but for vinyl, we use this guy named Bo at 1087 Mastering. Incredible guy. Actually gave me, because I wanted to learn how to master vinyl at one point in my life, and he gave me tips, and super nice. And the way he does it is insane. So what they're doing is they're just getting the masters for digital because it's cheap, and they're just throwing it onto a record. They're not worrying about how it's going to sound.
I see.
Which sucks.
That makes more sense
because they're expensive.
Yeah.
I mean, major label stuff's already like what, $30, $40?
Usually 30. I mean, depending on how long it is.
And I gotta wonder where that comes down to, because the most we ever charged for a record was $20. So that's either got to be the artist.
You weren't making any money on those.
We were making zero money, literally just enough to keep funding stuff. But I did make a little money when I sold it, so that's a plus side. But I gotta wonder why they're charging $30, $40 for a record.
I mean, people buy them. People buy them if you can. Why not?
I mean, I bought my wife the Elvis #1 hits, and I think that was like
Close to $50 for just 2 records. I think it's only 2 records in there. But yeah, I mean, also at the same time, a lot of people have just crappy record players. So a lot.
I was so furious when I got that Florence and the Machine album. I went on Amazon. It's like, am I the only one that is having this? And I went on, it was like 5 stars, sounds amazing. I'm like, you are listening to that on a piece of shit Crossley you bought at Urban Outfitters for $98.
Exactly. And that is their target. That's like who they want to sell that to, because those sound like shit already. That the shitty vinyl isn't going to sound any different on that.
Those particular record players, I remember I had one of those when I was 6, because that's what they were for back then. They were literal toys. Just literal toys.
Just for kids.
And, it drives me fucking up a wall. And then, everyone's like, well, I'm an audiophile. I listen to vinyl. I'm like, on what, a Crossley? They're like, yeah. I'm like, go fucking jump into traffic. You are the reason we can't have nice things.
If you cannot change the needle on your record player, do not say that you're an audiophile. That is right there. If you cannot take that needle out and replace it, because those get really damaged over time. And if
you're supposed to replace them.
Yeah. Mine's starting to sound like crap, but my daughter listens to Mumford & Sons on a regular basis over and over and over and over and over again. So it's either the record is getting just played out, or which also the like weight also plays into how long those will last. Like 180 gram will last longer.
A lot of those, and the weight of the needle. A lot of those Crossleys, they're just destroying those records, and it's just kind of breaking my heart.
Oh, I mean, right here, Brady said people were mad that we only did 10 tracks on the Skullgirls vinyl. We had explained that it would have been crappier quality if we crammed more. Yeah. Rule of thumb is don't do more than 5 a side. Usually it's no more, like we were told, because also different types of music fit differently on record. A lot of like bass music, if because we're selling to people that DJ'd, no more than 20 minutes aside. Like usually 10 to 15 is the sweet spot. That's why a lot of electronic music labels will put out one song on each side. Is because they're trying to hit that sweet spot where it sounds the best. It'll last as long as possible. So this is my friend. He wants to, so you know what Mal is, right?
My anime list?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
He trolls everyone, gets them really riled up. He only says a series is good if it has an 8 or higher on Mal. So do you support?
Okay, so he's trolling us right now.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, see right there, base knows no bounds. He comes into every stream and says the same shit, makes fun of me for loving Mecha. So,
you know what we need more of is more anime OST on vinyl.
Yeah.
I have a few. I have quite a few. I'm really.
What's your favorite soundtrack? That like
for anime?
Yeah, like if you were, let's say, Discotheque started putting out records, what would be like the first thing? And would you learn how to
Plus.
Macross Plus?
I have a
Bootleg of Macross Plus over there. I know, it's not. I did not pay for it. I got sent it in the mail.
It's actually a box set. It's every Macross series ever.
But I also own legally all the Macross that you can buy legally over here. So
I imported. I did an import and reauthor of Macross Plus.
Now that I know that that's a thing, I've been doing that to Common Writer because I have bootlegs, and I've been throwing once Mill Creek announced Ultraman, I threw away all my bootlegs of Ultraman.
I did that for Dominion Tank Police. I'm really happy because nobody knows. Pardon me. Nobody knows who owns that show now, so we can't get it. So
nobody knows who owns that show.
Nope.
Was it you or Robert that told me that a lot of times you'll go to a company, they'll tell you to go to another company, and then when you go to that company, they say that the original company has it, and then it's just a big.
That could have been either one of us. It's super common, especially with old OVAs. That's the problem because those OVAs were made. A lot of those companies went out of business, and even if the rights transferred to another company, that company might not have all the documentation they need legally to be able to sell it. And so they just got thrown in a filing cabinet and nobody knows, what the fuck. So, that's happened to Discotheque a lot of times. And the OVAs are especially bad that way because, a lot of those were made by these little companies that just went away immediately. And, the chain of title for the show just gone.
What's your favorite movie soundtrack?
Okay. So I'm going to get obscure on you.
Okay.
So there's two that stand out in my memory. One is The Double Life of Veronique, the Krzysztof Kieslowski movie.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah, it's Criterion stuff. It's French-Polish co-production from I think early 90s. It's a beautiful, beautiful mood piece of a film. I highly recommend it. Let's see. I love okay, so my area in LA, Glendale, is known for their indescribably shitty drivers. So I love driving the streets of Glendale with the Mad Max Fury Road soundtrack playing.
That is an amazing soundtrack.
It is a great soundtrack. It is very repetitive, but is very, very great soundtrack. There's it's rare for me to listen to a whole soundtrack start to finish. I think the only one I'll do that for is Pat Labor 2 or something. But individual tracks, for example, on Perfect Blue, the music when Mima is stabbing the photographer guy.
Yeah.
Oh God, that just fills me with energy. That song, probably not the right kind of energy.
My favorite soundtrack is Gladiator.
Gladiator has a classic. That's a classic.
Nothing makes me more emotional than I got the name wrong when I was talking to Zach. So, but I'm not gonna say the name of the song because I thought it was Elysium, but it's not. It's the song where spoilers for Gladiator, a 19-year-old film, almost 20-year-old film. So if you're getting upset, I'm sorry, but
that's on you.
That's on you. You've had a long time. The scene where he is dying at the very end and he sees his wife and his son again, that song is the most heart-wrenching thing I've ever heard, and like literally every time I hear it, I will get teary-eyed, and depending on my mood, full on just have a meltdown.
That I music combined with visuals is that combination can be so powerful and intense that it dramatically changes how you think about both of them. And I feel like there's so many missed opportunities, because I mean that's part of what drew me into anime in the first place, was how Japanese directors use music very differently, and they use it to kind of contrast the emotion with the scene. Like nothing. Okay, so you've seen Marmalade Boy.
Yeah.
Okay. You know how they just take and have a music box version of the opening theme?
I don't remember the theme very well.
Okay. There's a pretty, it has, your typical shoujo opener from the early 90s. And, they have music box covers of it, and they'll use the slow music box tinkly melody of the opener when something really, really horrible happens, and the Miki is just like spiraling the drain and just so overcome with depression she can barely even get out of bed. And that's not something a Western director would do. It's just not. That it might, because it's slow paced, it doesn't lend itself to intensity. But if used right, you can use something slow and tinkly and a little bit sad to take a very intense scene and just ratchet it up and just do weird shit to people's brains. And I love that. And we need more of that.
The last thing I remember that having an effect on me was the newest Shin Godzilla movie. They used the original theme and original sounds that haven't been used since the 1954 movie. And hearing that like sprinkled in at certain points, I was like, oh my God. Like
that's a third ingredient, nostalgia.
Yeah, nostalgia. Speaking of nostalgia, the song you chose for the trailer to show off your guys' upcoming releases,
oh yeah,
is such a good song because one, it's catchy.
Oh, two, super. I still sit through it when I'm proofing discs.
It's so good. And then also it sounds like something I've heard before, but it's not. And it made me feel like I wasn't like sad, but it made me have a feel. I was like, whoa, like this just fits perfectly. And with the visuals too, the stuff that you chose, that scene in City Hunter where the camera pans and with the music, I was like, holy shit. Like I'm so excited to see City Hunter. That was very emotional.
I'm so happy to hear you say that. So backstory, I've been wanting to make that trailer for about a year. And the whole idea was always to have it be our Do It Now trailer where we'd swap out the shows every few months and have new ones. So I actually, originally I wanted to use Days of Thunder by the Midnight.
Mm-hmm. Which is one of your favorite bands.
I love them. I've seen them live like 4 times. I'm, Twitter friends with Tyler Lyle. So there was a snafu. I was in negotiation for literally 9 months for that song. And the sticking point was, unfortunately, there was an issue with, there are 2 publishing companies. There was an issue with one of them. They just wouldn't respond to anything because I think they were not on good terms with one of them. And so I couldn't get anything done. I couldn't negotiate with the publisher. They wouldn't even call me back.
That sucks.
So it really did suck. And I had to actually talk to Tyler after a show. It's like, hey, what's going on here? And he's like, yeah, that you're probably anything pre-nocturnal or pre-kids, you're not going to be able to get. I'm like, oh crap. Okay. So I went to my good friend John Kunkel, who you might know him. His band, The New Division. I directed a couple music videos 4 years ago. I'm still friends with all those guys.
You directed music videos too?
Yep. I haven't made one in years.
Can you stop being talented? Like, where does your talent stop? Jesus, I didn't know that.
Well, I went to film school. I I was a directing major.
Yeah, but
The
how
fact
many
that I
people
haven't
go
done
to
more
film
is,
school that, like don't do anything with that degree?
yeah, still, I'm,
That's
I
awesome,
wish
though.
I'd done more. I'm trying to get back into making my own stuff rather than repackaging other people's stuff, but it's a living. But anyway, so I'm like, hey, you're making music under a couple other different pseudonyms now, or do you have anything that fits like this sort of like 80s throwbacky, just kind of something that really gets your blood pumping? And I pointed to a couple songs that I had in mind, and he's like, yeah, actually, I just made this. And so he sends me, I'm like, yes, this.
It's the perfect song too.
Yeah, so I'm, we try to call it out as much as possible, so he gets a fan following that under his new brand, To Live and Die in LA. But that New Division songs that's the opener theme for Ancast. That's the opener theme for my opening theme for my Jim's podcast. John is extraordinarily talented, and I'm so happy to have that song.
I saw you briefly talked about this, so if you don't want to talk about this, you've talked about it on Twitter, and you said it's not nice to shit talk other companies. But speaking of SD Blu-ray, does Justin want to tell us how he really feels about Made in Japan and Sentai Blu-rays?
Do I?
Because some of them.
All right. So I at that Right Stuff sale last week, I just bought this Hot Rocky Man. I love this show. It's one of the OG Noitamina shows. It's workplace kind of actiony thing. Those Noitamina shows. They're josei. They've been encoding them, and apparently they're all like this, or almost all of them are like this, with the wrong field order. So as a result, and some of them use MPEG too, but I don't know why. Maybe they're just reusing old DVD assets. But so as a result, it flickers because the fields are in the wrong order. So whenever there's a panning shot, it's like stuttery. Whenever there's motion, it looks terrible. It's unwatchable. And I have nothing against Sentai or Made in Japan. I want to support their releases, but this is not acceptable. I don't understand how you can be a professional and release something that looks this bad and do it repeatedly. This is very basic video encoding shit. And
I think it was
appalled.
I think it was Ideon that looked like they had some problems. I was watching it. I was like, ugh.
Yeah, almost all of them are like that. Almost all of them. There was one where I think they just like somebody heard that's like, oh, there's interlacing problems. I'll just throw in the de-interlace filter in Premiere, which that just throws away a field. So it's in quarter res. Look, I'm spitting now. I'm so pissed.
I wasn't going to say anything. I was just going to let it happen.
Yeah. So it's half resolution. So you're literally watching something like it's a fucking QuickTime movie in 1996. It's just not okay. And I don't know how. Anyway.
We have a base senpai. Does Justin know anything about why Aniplex continues to release series at an absurd price while other companies like Funimation and churn out series for 35 to 45 smackaroos?
That's their business model.
Yeah, I mean, also, some Japanese company will say you can only release it at this price.
I mean, they are a Japanese company. They are the Japanese company, and that's why they're doing that, because no one else will agree to it.
That sucks, dude, because some of their stuff, I'm just like... I own the Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood and Gurren Lagann box sets. Each of those is like $150.
Well, now that Funimation and Aniplex are trying to... I have a feeling that Funimation and Aniplex are going to absorb each other in the next year. I mean, they've said outright that that's happening. From what I'm hearing, there is kind of a power struggle going on because Aniplex doesn't want to give up their U.S. division, and obviously Funimation, they know what they're doing. So yeah, I'm really, really curious to see what's going to happen in the next year. If nothing else, the Aniplex stuff is going to show up on Funimation now, but I really wonder if Full Metal Alchemist is going to come back to Funny. It might happen.
Really? That'd be awesome.
I don't know. Can't see the future, but it's not outside of the realm of possibility. Somebody's going to have to give up their toys at some point.
as much as they are overpriced, their product is very high quality. So
it is. They get it all done by in Japan. So, Japan does screw up stuff occasionally, but they don't cut corners.
Now we have another question. What makes so to tie this in with another question that we skipped over in the chat? There's a lot of companies video-wise that are putting out classics like Arrow, Criterion. Discotech kind of stands out as one of the only companies doing a very niche thing. A lot of like Viz and Funimation are putting out classics. Man, Japan did all of Votoms, a handful of Zabungle, Ideon. What else did they do? They did what was the third one in that? The Tomino stuff. There was one more that they did. Or a Battle or Dunbine.
Yeah, they did Dunbane. Although Dunbane was a real Blu-ray, wasn't it?
I think so.
Yeah.
So what makes Discotech so special? And I think
Are we
part
special?
of it, you guys are very special. You guys have a very dedicated fan base. Unlike
I'm so grateful for that. I'm so grateful for that.
I don't see, Sentai Filmworks fanboys. I don't see people being like, just clamoring for the next disc, Sentai Filmworks day. You guys have.
I think we just make it very, very obvious how much we care about the stuff we put out. That's all that fans really want at the end of the day, is for their precious anime to be treated with care. And my personal philosophy when I put together a disc, and I know Brady feels the same way as I do, is that when you buy a disc from us, it should be the last time you ever buy that show, unless there's a remaster, and we don't control that. We don't. It should be the definitive copy of that disc, and you should be proud to have it on your shelf, because that's why people buy discs now. It's you don't need to buy discs to watch things anymore. The discs are a keepsake, and it should have everything that you could possibly want related to that show on it.
But also you guys go above and beyond. Like, just for instance, Cyborg 009.
We're nuts. We're absolutely fucking nuts.
Cyborg 009, like, I feel like a normal company would be like, let's just cut our losses and not release that. And then you got stuff like Bobobo, like who, like what? And then Godma's Zinger, like who the fuck's gonna release that? Like, no one is. It's you guys. You guys are crazy.
I mean, I kind of, luckily my tastes align quite a bit with our catalog. So, I've probably bought, I buy all of our own discs. I don't ask for freebies usually, just because I like to support it.
I also buy every Discotech release. I missed 2 this season.
You're insane. There's a lot of stuff that I won't buy that we put out.
I missed Sonic, and what's the other one I missed? Cutie Honey. I missed that and Cutie Honey, which I'm waiting for them to be back in stock, because I'm going to order those too.
Well, look, we
I love you guys.
I love you too. That's basically it. And the fact that we talk about things as they're in production. And here's the difference. Fans are very, very engaged, and especially the fans that buy anime Blu-rays, they're super engaged and they just want to know. So say what happened with Cyborg 009, I feel like if we didn't put out there just what a horrible state those masters were in, people would just be pissed that they A, weren't in HD, B, some of the episodes weren't glorified stereo rather than 5.1. C, the video quality wasn't great in certain points, but if we're up front, we say, hey, and we kind of give people the live blog as what putting this together is like, and all the shit we had to go through. I think people give us a much wider berth. people give us much more of a chance when we say, look, this is the hell we had to put up with to get through this disc. It is what it is, guys. We're sorry, and you can't get any better than this. That people are really grateful for that because you put in the time, and they know you put in the time, and they know you tried, and that if this is all there is, this is all there is, and they're going to be happy with that.
Like to kind of, I don't want to answer for Discotech, but for me personally, what makes a Discotech title special is that it still feels like when you first get into anime and you first and you're just finding out titles and you're so blown away and you're so it feels like Christmas morning is what it feels like. Like every time, the fact that within a month of each other, we got Just Being, Message from Space, and then we got a 4K release of Cobra, and then the following month we're getting Giant Robo. That's so fucking awesome.
It's really cool to be able to be the person who delivers that. And I really love what I do. And even if I never get to make anything and this is my legacy for the rest of my life, I can live with that.
That's a pretty good legacy, man. You make a lot of people happy.
It's so cool. I cannot overstate how cool it is to come out with a show that you've been working on for 6 months and you just busted your ass on it, and seeing people lose their shit over it. That is the coolest feeling.
That's the first thing I messaged you was because you told me, hey, I'm so stressed. This is the worst time ever. And then when that trailer dropped and all the announcements and the amazingly positive feedback, I was like, Justin, how does it feel? And you were like, it's the best feeling in the world.
I imagine what it feels like if for a musician to go out on stage and get applause and get cheers. That's just like, I busted my ass for this. I gave all, and it's appreciated. And that's all anyone wants at the end of the day, is to be appreciated. So I want the fans to know that they're appreciated too, that this is,
Brady said also the fact that we're engaged is how we're able to find really weird stuff and rare sometimes. We wouldn't have had that Ray Earth dub pilot if it weren't connected to the fans. That's another thing. You guys, yesterday, you tweeted, hey, what does this mean? What does this...
Yeah.
You guys are constantly... And I also think it's because you guys have... there's faces to the company. I don't know anybody that works at Sentai or Made in Japan. I can't name anybody. But
they've had trouble with that. Luckily, the people we've recruited are good. They don't let their ego get out of control. That's been a problem in the past. That there have been certain people that have just kind of become these minor celebrities, and it becomes a cult of personality. And they go to conventions and do these panels, and they come off feeling like a rock star, and that it turns ugly, and they start becoming an embarrassment. And
how do you not do that? Because you are people know who you are, people know what company you're associated with.
Not that many. I have less than 5,000 Twitter followers. I mean,
you have almost 10. I'm pretty sure you have almost 10. Yeah, Twitter. Maybe I'm high. Maybe I'm high.
I think you're high. Let's see.
4,000. Okay, yeah,
4,600.
I thought it was 10. I thought it was 9.
No. I do get recognized, and that's weird and cool because I'm a post-production guy. Post-production guys don't get known. I have people literally petitioning and berating other publishers for not using my services. It weirds me the fuck out. But to be honest, I never really wanted to be in the spotlight. I never was into performing. I was never into anything. I was always a behind the scenes sort of guy. I'm just a behind the scenes sort of guy with a big mouth. So it's not about that for me, and I don't want it to be about me. I want it to be about the work and the truth of things. I mean, I started ANN. That ANN, the whole point of ANN was to get the truth out there, not to make anyone a star. It was to avoid spin, to actually get facts out there. That's what I've always been about.
And then you did this is another, just looking at questions and just trying to filter them out. You did.
We need to wrap up. We've been going for 2 hours here.
Oh, crap. Was it really been 2 hours?
It has been 2 hours.
You you did the Perfect Blue Blu-ray this year, right?
I did. Actually, I did it last year, I think, and then we redid it really quick for G Kids.
When do you find time to do work for other companies, and how often do other companies reach out to you?
It's pretty rare now. As other companies have kind of fallen by the wayside, Discotech has taken up the slack. So I'm more or less a one company guy now, but I still do stuff for other companies. I just find the time. I still do an occasional gig for TMS. I still I do some stuff for Sunrise. I just, as we've been talking, got a quick DCP job where I have to turn around an indie movie trailer. But that won't take me very long. And
do you want to eventually, maybe like once the 3 years is up and you're done with Discotech, do you want to go to make like actually produce actual films? Like actually, I want to find a way of doing both. I think it's possible. I'm going to need help. I'm going to need probably hire someone again. I briefly had an assistant a couple years ago, Anton, who I really miss having that guy around, but he had to move back to Canada. I'll find a way to do it. Finding enough time in the day. I've been just trying to streamline my organization as much as possible. I have, guys like Logan and Mark helping me out with stuff. I just, I'll find a way. I'll find a way to do it. Are you into philosophy at all? A little bit, yeah. I took 2 classes.
Okay, I'm a huge Jean-Paul Sartre fan, except for his politics. His politics are terrible, but he had kind of an overriding thing, and this might be considered by some as ableist, but for abled people, I would consider it kind of gospel truth, which is the measure of a man is in what he achieves. And so to that extent, I'm like, that keeps me going. That keeps me working harder, because it's just like, okay, well, I made a bunch of Blu-rays this year that a bunch of people care a lot about. Okay, that's great. What have you done for me lately? It's like, I can keep doing that, sure, but what if I can do more? I'm pretty sure I can.
That's why I do what I do too. That's that very similar idea, that very similar thought process is why I work 80 hours in 5 days and grind and grind.
I say Jesus Christ, but we're probably working the same hours.
yeah. Oh yeah, that's what I was about to say, Justin. No, you're working way more than that.
Yeah, I have to grab food, and then I have to go into Coach CrossFit at 4 p.m.
All right, well, let's wrap this up, guys. Thank you. This is the first episode of a show that we don't have a name for yet. So
yeah, we're open to suggestions. Neither of us can come up with anything even reasonable. So
someone said, "What about Answer Man and Question Boy?"
I don't want to use the Answer Man name because that belongs to Anna, and it preceded me, and last time I checked in, they were still talking about relaunching the column with someone else. So I don't want to use Answer Man, but something else.
Yeah. Hey, actually, I'll do a little giveaway. I'll give away a copy of Just Band, whoever comes up with the name that we choose. I think that'd be a fun little thing for the people watching. So, just hit us up on Twitter, whatever name we both agree on. I'll send you a copy. I'll send you like a little Discotech care package.
Awesome. And this is going up on YouTube?
Yeah, this has been live on YouTube, and then it will StreamYard. Amazing. It'll automatically process on YouTube. This will be up probably within 20 minutes, depending on how long. Usually the longer videos take a little bit longer. So question man and reply guy. Blu-ray guy and devoted fanboy. That's a good one. That's a good one. That is a good one. But yeah, guys, if you guys are watching, I'm sure you guys know who Justin is. Go follow him. He's at World of Crap. He's on Twitter. And if you guys aren't subbed to the channel. We're almost my goal is to hit another 1,000 before the end of the year. I hit 2.4K in less than a year. So
cool. And I'll be gone for a few weeks, but we'll be back. We'll be back soon, some point in December, and we'll take some more questions.
hell yeah, guys. Just keep the questions coming, on Twitter or in private messages or on videos, and I'll save them like I did this time. So thank you guys so much. This has been a blast, and I'll see you guys next time.
All right, take care.
And we are